Hello, you're listening to Over the Oxer podcast with Tracy Cole for all things to do with the mind for equestrians.
Hello, welcome to this week's episode. I'm going to talk today a little bit about Tucker Biokinetic Technique again. And the reason is I've just come off the phone with a very lovely lady who wanted to know lots and lots more about it. And so we've had a really good chat, and I thought it'd be really nice to expand on some of her questions. So before I start, I want to say a warm welcome to you all, because I've been looking at some of the statistics for the podcast, and about 50% of people are in the United Kingdom, which makes sense because I'm in the United Kingdom. But the other 50% come from all over the place, all over the world, and really delighted that, I can be heard all over the world. That fascinates me. Countries that I've never been to, countries that I'd love to go to, and some countries that I have visited as well. So in the top 5, we've got the UK. Then coming in at number 2, we've got the US. And then number 3, we have got Ireland. 4, we've got Singapore. And 5, we've got Vietnam. I won't go through, the rest of them, but thank you so much to everybody for elevating your country into the top 5. So TBT then. Let's have a little think about TBT. And as you probably know, my background was in science. I was a biochemist at one point. So I was very much into peer-reviewed science, publishing under very strict and stringent rules, repeatable, reliable results, statistics, you name it. And with TBT, you're dealing with something that's intangible and you can't see working apart from you see the end result. So you're not in there working out what's going on in the body necessarily in that fine detail that I'm used to as a biochemist. However, the end results are pretty staggering, pretty amazing, to be honest. So because I can see it by the end, and you can see it in the horse's body and what the horse's body can do, it has just sent me down this rabbit hole that I'm absolutely fascinated by. So we talk very often in TBT about alignment, and not just the bones being aligned in their correct positions, but any structure, whether it's an organ or it's something like the fascia, which does, has lots and lots of flexibility in it. It could be nerves or blood vessels or tendons or ligaments. Any kind of structure has that alignment, and that would mean an optimal positioning and functioning at the same time. So it's quite a strange concept, because we always think of alignment being in a straight line, but we're looking for an energetic motility, an optimal or perfect motility for that particular structure. So every structure in the body has its own subtle motility, if you like, this frequency, and it's a signature of good health and good functioning, and everything's happening optimally, maximally, and everything's good. And when a horse is in alignment, when the whole body is in alignment, every part of them has that specific for each part, but that perfect vibrating frequency. It's a little bit like when you think about the old analogue radios. Let's say that the station that you want to listen to is 98.1. And for whatever reason, your dial has drifted to 98.3. Well, in the old days when we had these analogue radios, then you would still be able to hear the music and you'd still be able to hear the chat, but you might have a bit of whistling in the background. There might be a bit of static or a hum. So it wouldn't be perfect, but it would be perfectly usable. And in some parts of the country, that was the best you could get because you didn't have digital. And now digital has come and we've got this fine tuning and it's a crystal clear signal. That's kind of like what we're doing with the TBT. We can fine tune any structure within the body to give it that perfect motility. So why do structures get misaligned? Well, sometimes it's obvious because your horse has been careering around the field, maybe on hard ground, and so you know why they've come in a bit sore. Or maybe you know that the saddle doesn't have a perfect fit, or the bridle or the bit or something like that. And so those things are quite easy to sort out. But what happens when the primary cause, so not necessarily what you're seeing, because you might be seeing a lameness or you might be feeling tense muscles, but what if the primary cause for all of these things is invisible to you? And that's what I love about TBT, because a lot of what I did before was invisible. I'd simply put my samples into a machine and the machine would read it and the readout would tell me whether, some kind of chemical reaction had taken place. So looking for the primary cause is fascinating to me. It's a little bit like being that biochemist who comes across a problem and has to work out which reaction isn't going so well and how can I make it go better, if you like. So our horses, if we think about it, they have a compensation system just like we do. So if, for instance, I get a problem with my Achilles tendon, so my Achilles tendon is really sore. Let's say it's just one side. Let's say it's the left. So it's really sore. So probably not exactly in my awareness, I start to walk differently. Maybe I'm putting more weight onto my right side. My right side's okay with this to a point, but then it's kind of like, hang on, I wasn't meant to deal with all of this and keep us straight as well. And my right knee starts to ache. And then maybe my hips start to ache. But maybe, just maybe, those are the compensations that I've got. But then the compensations are full up. I can't compensate anymore. So my hips are really starting to feel painful. So I think, oh gosh, I've got painful hips. I need to sort them out. I need to go to the osteopath or I need to go to the doctors. But it's not really the painful hips that's the problem. It was the Achilles that started it. And so I could get the hips sorted, but equally I could get the Achilles sorted. And then you would see the ripple effect. And then you would see eventually, hopefully, if you've not done too much damage to yourself, that the hips start to realign. So in TBT, that's what we're doing. We're taking things back to the Achilles. We're going back to the primary cause. Now, the primary cause can be anything, and it's very often quite distant from the structure that we can see is in pain or discomfort or simply a bit out. One thing to consider is very invisible to us is the chemical burden that we are under in the modern world and also our horses are under. So from the equine perspective, you've got things like wormers and vaccines. You might have sedations for the vet or for the dentist and so on. We've got medications. Horses graze on fields that may have had fertilisers or they might have had a weed killer on. Even if that weed killer was a few months ago and it's rained and washed it away, there still will be traces of those chemicals. They obviously drink water, and our water isn't without, bits and pieces in there that might not be mountain spring quality. So all of these things, and it's happening with people as well. It's in our food, it's in our water, it's in the air that we breathe. You can't get away from these chemicals, and neither can horses. And to an extent, our livers can deal with that. That's what they're designed for. They're the detox organ. And so they can detox, the kidneys excrete it, and everything's fine. It's what happens when, for instance, the liver becomes so stressed because it's overloaded. It's still functioning, it's still doing its job, but its prime job in that case then is to detox, because we don't want to poison the system. So it means some of the other jobs, and the liver does hundreds of jobs, some of the other jobs might be seen as non-urgent, and they just get put on the back burner, or they're happening a bit slower. One of those, for instance, is the assimilation, the kind of packaging and deciding where to dispatch various amino acids. Amino acids make protein. Proteins go into muscles, they go into ligaments and tendons and all kinds of structures. Proteins are in every cell. So if, for instance, your horse, let's say they've got a ligament problem, may not be the ligament that it started with. It might be the liver just can't deliver those building blocks to make the protein. And that's the kind of thing that TBT does. And I love that, because it starts to align a little bit with some of the biochemistry that I know. The other thing is that everything is connected by fascia. So sometimes a certain structure in the body, whether it's a bone or whether it's a stressed organ, because everything's wrapped in the fascia, then sometimes the fascia could stretch and pull on a different part of the body. So you can, let's say you've got an SI problem, you can keep treating the SI problem and keep having the injections. That's one way to do it. Or you can find out what the SI problem is, and if it is fascia or the liver or something else, you can find out what it is and you can fix it. So what actually happens in a TBT session? Well, for most practitioners, it's going to look as though they're just standing there, maybe having a bit of a silent chat with the horse. Once the checkups are done, and checkups look a little bit like a chiropractor's checkups, a little bit. But once they're done, the actual treatment side, some practitioners are going to touch the horse. If the horse doesn't like being touched, or the practitioners do it their way and they don't touch the horse, they may just stand by the horse. Very often you'll see a practitioner place two hands on the horse. One is kind of listening, if you like, to the frequency of that structure. It's not an audible listen. It might come to some people in pictures or a feeling or a knowing. And the other hand is giving the suggestion to that structure to move back into its optimal position. And what moves it is the horse's own energy, their own bioenergy, to kind of get it to shift. Now, you might think that because we're releasing and bringing things back into alignment, that you would see lots of yawns and chewing and that kind of behaviour from the horses. And some horses do. Some horses do that and they're very expressive, and some horses don't. Some horses just stand still. Some horses back their backside into you as if to say, do more, do more, do more. And some horses just kind of turn around and almost put their head on your shoulder. And some horses don't. Some horses don't seem to do anything. Once the session is over, and sessions can last 30 minutes, an hour and a half, 2 hours, it depends how much the horse's body can take. Because if you're doing a detox, the horse will only be able to detoxify a certain amount at given a certain time window. But once you're finished, then you give the horse about 48 hours, because some things may be instant in some horses. So you see it and you step back and you do the checkups again and, oh my goodness, that shoulder's loosened up. Other horses, it's going to take a little time for all of these things, for the body to find out how to realign itself and keep going with those realignments that have been started, and to find that energetic motility that can restore the function of the whatever structure has been looked at. So it's absolutely fascinating. Honestly, it's fascinating. Not a lot to see if you do book a TBT practitioner, but lots to think about in terms of what's going on with your horse, and also how to fix it. Some of the things that are considered unfixable and only manageable can be fixed to a large extent, if not completely, by TBT. So it is an absolutely amazing set of techniques. And if you've got any questions, or you want me to, give you some more details about TBT, do drop me a message, because it is absolutely fabulous stuff. Of course, once you know your horse is in great alignment, then it gives you the confidence when you're riding to ride forwards. I think a lot of the time people, when their horses have been through a rehab or having a rehab, or somebody's not sure if their horse is quite right or not, you're not riding confidently. And it's not to do with having riding confidence per se, but it's the confidence that your horse is okay with what you're asking. I hope you've enjoyed this episode. Take care, and I'll see you again really soon.